without
now.
electricity days after the storm hit Sunday. Officials say it should be restored.
Pastor, have
today
you
to
heard
some
about
of the
this young
lesser
woman,
damaged
Masa
areas.
Amini, in
There are
Iraq?
estimates on the areas hit the hardest by the flooding and the mudslides. Fiona is
It's a
expected
story.
to still
Follow
be
the
a strong
story.
storm
You
on
spent a
the
lot
rise
of time
along the east
overseas,
Canadian coast. 4 to 5
and
million
it's a
people
story
have
that you
been
should
given the
know.
latest Omicron booster
There's something
shot.
called the, I don't know, you might have heard of the morality
for Disease
police.
Control and Prevention said Thursday
22 years of age, and she was wearing her hijab, but apparently for the authorities it was not enough, and she was killed in police custody.
5 million people have received the new
And it's like the
booster.
George
Health
Floyd
experts
case
say
of the
it's
Middle
too
East
early
right
to
now.
predict whether the demand
It's
will
being
match
covered
the
extensively
21
everywhere by the
million
United
doses of new
States.
boosters ordered by the federal government for the fall.
She's 20. She was 22 years of age,
Common Omicron strain. There has been a
and it's a
temporary
huge
shortage of
story.
Moderna
I'll send you
vaccine.
links
Issue
to
could
it.
be resolved
You should.
soon. Government
Just given where
officials
you are
complete
and
an
given how
inspection.
you travel,
Batches of the vaccine are cleared for
it's a
distribution.
story that you
I'm
should
Mike
know.
Rossi.
A NASA spacecraft is on a one-way mission to crash into an
You don't want to
asteroid
get caught
to nudge it into a
away
tighter
not
orbit
knowing
around a
about it.
larger companion asteroid.
Right.
Okay.
Thomas Zurbuck
That you
says
don't-
the
you don't.
DART test could prove the math and technology needed to
So,
prevent asteroids from
that's
hitting
it.
the Earth.
But it's a huge story
What makes
international.
this time special
Huge.
is we can do something about it.
The double
Huge,
asteroid
huge.
reduction test craft will be traveling at 14,000 miles
there's
per hour
that.
when it hits the asteroid on Monday. This is AP News.
Yeah, it's amazing the stories that don't get
Iranian
covered
state
here,
television reports
but then
more
when
than
you get
2
out the
dozen
country,
people could be dead in
and
protests
you find out, oh my
over the death of a
gosh,
young
and
woman in
particularly,
government custody.
and I'm trying to work out Morocco. I'd like to get away. I need to get away. I don't know if I'll be able to because we got a lot going on right now. But I'll call you and talk to you about it because I need you to be in prayer with me about some things that I need to do.
Sure.
Okay, I really, really need your help. Okay?
You got
I really, really, really do right now.
A young woman
Oh,
held by the
Lord.
country's morality
Okay,
police
so let me pull
for
this up.
allegedly violating its strictly enforced dress code. In
And
further development, people in Tehran and some other cities are planning to hold a
Okay.
counter-protest rally after the Friday prayers. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
There's been an explosion near a mosque in Kabul, Afghanistan. No word yet on the cause or any casualties. I'm Tim McGuire, AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs.
Okay,
And
how is it?
streaming
Can you
worldwide at
speak, Pastor?
WCPT820.com.
and I need you to make
Yeah.
sure that we are able to hear her, Paul.
sure. CDEFGHIJKLL.
Can you hear her, Paul?
Yes.
Okay, great. That's perfect.
Blocking the right lane. You're looking at about
All right,
a
wonderful.
40-minute delay there. Westbound traffic as well. At O'Hare, traffic is heavy on the outbound Kennedy and westbound 190.
Okay.
Lanes are from Cumberland to Manheim going into the airport. It's
All
96
right.
minutes from downtown Chicago to O'Hare.
Okay. But what's a good time to call you, Pastor?
18 minutes. About Eisenhower gets
Today, noon is fine. If convenient.
About noon, your time?
I'm right.
Stevenson.
Yeah, yep. I'm writing today, so you'll be fine.
Okay,
Anytime before 6.
I will.
Alamonte.
Yeah.
Tom Hartman.
These crisis pregnancy centers they look like doctor's offices. Typically, what they offer are pregnancy tests, and they advertise ultrasounds. But the ultrasounds they offer are, quote, for entertainment purposes only. In other words, this is not an actual medical diagnostic tool. And the reason that they're doing this, they are not regulated by HIPAA, the Health Privacy Act.
The Tom Hartman Radio Program. Weekdays 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on WCPT 820.
These days, prices are going up on everything. But in Illinois, some help is on the way. Because as of July 1st, Governor Pritzker's budget has gone into effect, including $1.8 billion in tax relief.
JB froze the gas tax. It means relief for us, not the oil companies.
JB eliminated the state grocery tax. It means more savings at the checkout, helping us pay less for the things we buy every day.
It means lower property tax.
And the young woman's name is Masa Amini.
That's right.
Masa Amini, A-M-I-N-I. She was 22 years of age, and she was compliant. She was obedient. She was wearing her hijab, but apparently she was not covered enough. according to authorities. They have a group called the Morality Police.
Coming up in 15.
Thank you. And that's what happened to her.
You're listening to WC.
That's unfortunate.
Oh, it's horrific.
Mm-hmm.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. I'm so glad to be with you today on WCPT 820. The nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I can't wait to get up to see you all in Minneapolis, St. Paul. I'm going to have to work that out now that everything is opening back up, although the pandemic is still with us, everybody. So please be careful. I want you to call me today at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. It seems that even as former President Trump's legal woes are mounting and expanding and deepening, that's not impacting him in the polls. I read a story yesterday that saw a 5% drop, but other polling is showing the opposite. It seems that his support is consolidating. So my question to you today is, will he run? Should he run if he's indicted? And could he win? Yeah, I want to know what your thoughts are. Call me at 773-763-9278. It's becoming more of, or should I say, a less distant possibility, and it's becoming more feasible every day. And I want to know what your thoughts are. Call me at 773-763-9278. We are going to get to you, 773-763-9278. And I want you to meet my morning stars over here on the Santita Jackson and Friends page. Andre was first amongst everyone today, and then Linear Bob, and then Carol. How you doing? Good. And Zenobia, and Jan, and Dave Dowling, and Daryl, and Vita. Hey, sweetie. And Barbara, and Jewel, and Joyce, and Louie Chewy. So many of you. Mark Stevens, hope you'll meet me over on the Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson show on Sunday from 7 to 9 Central Standard Time, 8 to 10 Eastern Standard Time. One of our guests is going to be Chief Hoskin. Who is he? He is the chief of the Cherokee Nation. There was an agreement more than 100 years ago to have the Cherokee Nation have a seat in the U.S. House of Representatives. It never happened. But now they're on the verge of it happening, and we're the ones who are going to have to make it happen. I believe that the Cherokee Nation and the other nations in the indigenous community need to have seats in the U.S. House of Representatives. Indeed, they need to be voting seats, unlike the delegate seat for the District of Columbia, which should be a voting seat as well. And so we're going to have him on to talk about that issue, and they will be joining the Santita Jackson show next week. Got to get our indigenous brothers and sisters into the power spaces where they deserve to be. All right, everybody, let's get to, and of course, Mahsa Amini, the 22-year-old who was killed in Iran. Her parents say they don't believe the official police report. Sound familiar? This is like the George Floyd case of the Middle East right now, and really all around the world. There are riots everywhere. But it's a story we're not hearing about here. 22 years of age, killed because she wasn't sufficiently covered. She was wearing her hijab. But they say that she was not sufficiently covered, and a 22-year-old has a heart attack in police custody. Come on, you guys. Let's go to some of these headlines. In Chicago, 64 degrees. The autumn is here, everybody. Mostly cloudy. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 58 degrees and showers. In Major League Baseball, my heart is broken. The White Sox, they fell yesterday to the Guardians. You have to watch those Guardians. They kind of roll up on you, everybody. 4-2. The White Sox, although they're in second place, they're 7 games back. 7 games back. I don't know if they're going to make it to the playoffs this year, everybody. What you think? The Chicago Cubs 3, the Pirates 2. They're both out of it, but it's been great having them play this year. And, of course, the Royals 4 and the Twins 1. In the NFL, well, they're playing, it seems like every night of the week. The Browns 29, extending their 3-game record to 2-1. And the Steelers 17, 1 and 2 for the year, everybody. Halloween is more than a month away, but Walmart and Target, no, they're not sleeping on it, everybody. They're getting a start on holiday shopping immediately online. Are you shopping for Christmas and Thanksgiving already? It's September. Well, it'll be October next week. Time flies. Hurricane Fiona. Canadians are bracing for what could be the strongest storm to ever hit their country's coast. Hurricane Fiona, which has already battered the Caribbean, is now forecast to brush by Bermuda today before slamming into eastern Canada on Saturday morning. Residents in Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island are being warned to prepare for Fiona's impact. Occupied parts of Ukraine are voting in so-called sham referendums today on joining Russia. The referendums, now most of these areas where they're voting are occupied, well, not occupied, this is where Russians live. So this is something that you need to know. The referendums, which are illegal under international law, have been widely condemned by the West as illegitimate. Such a move could provide Moscow with a pretext to escalate its faltering invasion. We'll have to see how all of this goes, everybody. A Democratic lawmaker in Florida is suing Republican Governor Ron DeSantis to stop him from transporting more migrants from the southern border, arguing last week's flights to Martha's Vineyard violated state law. State Senator Jason Pizzo from Miami says DeSantis illegally misspent taxpayer dollars by flying about 50 migrants from San Antonio to the Massachusetts island. More than $45 billion in pandemic unemployment benefits may have been fraudulently paid to criminals between March of 2020 and April of 2022, according to the U.S. Department of Labor. This is the latest report to identify widespread schemes to steal money from a variety of federal relief programs. I hope they include these corporations who were flush with money, who got PPP money. What about that, everybody? Those are just some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show as we are watching these races from all around the country. Val Demings is in a tighter than this, they say it's a this close race in Florida. Of course, former police chief and brilliant sitting member of Congress, African-American woman, is this close to beating Marco Rubio. She's fallen 2 points behind in the latest polls, but we will see. We are hoping, we're pulling for Val Demings. In the meantime, we have got the anointed pastor of the First Baptist Church of Bridgehampton, New York, the author of I See You, Sis. I See You, Sis is a book that I'm reading once again. It's going to bless you, everybody. I see you, sis. I see you, sis. And my sisters, you will be seen and you will feel seen after you read this book. You'll see yourself all through that Bible. Pastor Tisha Williams, I'm sending you so much love today. You've been on my mind all week. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Sending you love right back. Good morning, everyone. Always glad to be here.
Absolutely. Okay, I need some good news because, boy, there's a lot going on in this world every single day. I don't know how to track it all.
The good news is that we're all having a shared experience. So you're not alone. And most of us in reality are what I'm calling running on empty. Have you ever been to a place where you expected fullness and came up on empty? Where you expected the fullness of your paycheck only to be met with the emptiness of your overdrawn bank account. You expected the fullness of your belly only to be met with the emptiness of your cupboards. You expected the fullness of a heart flowing with love only to be met with the emptiness of a breakup. You expected the fullness of job offers only to be met with the emptiness of your email inbox. The reality is we have been doing so much. We have been sustaining so much, whether it be protests or politics or pandemic. And the reality is we are all running on empty. I feel like Tamala Mann this morning. Truth is, I'm tired. We are running on empty. The term running on empty means continuing to operate with no or extraordinarily little enthusiasm, energy, or resources left. And running on empty denotes feelings of defeat, deficiency, and depletion. And after the time and the seasons that we have, we can all testify that we are running on empty today. But I've got good news today. Often when we experience emptiness, we do so without hope. But I remember the angel of the Lord descending from heaven, sitting on the stone as Jesus' tomb was found empty, and said, "For he has been raised. Come see the place where he lay." And I like this because in this moment, that angel reframes emptiness for us because the women come to the place for a burial, but the angel invites them into a new beginning. What are you saying, Pastor? Because I'm saying your emptiness could be indicative of a new beginning. Why? Because Jesus can transform a burial place into a birthplace. Every space that he entered, everything he touched, he transformed. So why would a tomb be any different? The question is, I want to know, what do you see in your emptiness? Do you see pain or possibility? I just lost someone. I know I did. Because you believe that just because your situation is empty, it's lacking. And you're correct to an extent. But I want you to know that the only thing it's lacking is substance. However, it contains all the potential in the world. In fact, it is only when a vessel is empty that it can be filled. Its purpose is realized in its emptiness. Anything that's empty contains all the potential in the world. An empty glass has all the potential to be filled. An empty canvas is ripe for a masterpiece. An empty mind can be filled with knowledge. An empty heart can be filled with love. An empty bank account can be filled with capital. God loves an empty vessel. And do you know why? Because an empty vessel can be filled for God's glory. I'm excited about that this morning because you may think you're empty when in reality, you're filled with expectancy. You can be filled today. And God can transform your emptiness with expectation, emptiness with expansion, emptiness to elevation, emptiness to elation, emptiness to enlargement, emptiness to enlightenment, emptiness to empowerment, emptiness to enjoyment, emptiness with excitement, emptiness with eagerness, emptiness with easiness, emptiness with effectiveness, and emptiness with endurance. What do you see in your emptiness today? Nothing or newness. So here's the good news. If you are empty today, you're really filled with all the possibilities in the world. And that's the good news.
Amen to that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I know that blessed somebody this morning. I know it blessed me. Before you came on, I said, she's going to say something that's going to speak to me today. And you always do. And I thank you for that. Oh, no, thank you for that.
Thank you.
You know, because we keep thinking we're lacking. You know, my pastor, Reverend Evans, said, you know, we're in three spaces in life. We're either in a storm, on our way out of a storm, or on our way into a storm. You're always getting tested in life. Always, always, always.
That's right.
But, you know, you
That's
do
right.
have to stay open. And I guess empty to a degree. If you eat until absolute fullness, you can't even move. I have to bring things back to
You're
food.
right.
I'm
You have to
sorry.
always leave room for a little something, right? We always should leave room for God to work. Mm-hmm.
Amen. But you have to take it back to food. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, I see you, sis. Get the book, everybody, on Amazon. I see you, sis. How can we check you out and catch your service at the First Baptist Church of Bridgehampton, New York?
Sure. We are on YouTube every morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. You can catch us then on Sundays if you want to catch us live. If you want to go back and watch our worship experiences, feel free. YouTube, the channel is First Baptist Church of Bridgehampton. Make sure to subscribe.
Amen, amen, amen. We love Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams. And we love Dr. Shanina Knighton. And, you know, she is infection preventionist, registered nurse, college lecturer. Boy, she does it all. And a wife and a mom and a daughter and an aunt and all of these things, all these hats that we wear. And we have to be actively engaged in all of them. As we get into this discussion today, I just have a few questions for you. How is your great nephew? You know, everyone wants to know.
Yes, so same as yesterday.
Okay. We're going to continue to be prayerful because as Shaquille shared with you, her daughter had Kawasaki syndrome and she's doing quite well now. And we just pray in advance. We thank God in advance for the healing. We do. And thank God that you were there so that it could be so. Let me ask you this. We're in this season where, you're seeing flus, colds, and all of that. And now the question is about the COVID booster, which many, if not most people, are not getting, which is interesting. And now there's a push for people to get the COVID booster and the flu shot. And it seems that people are avoiding both. They're certainly avoiding the COVID booster. Can you take them at the same time? It seems, just as a layperson, that we're being asked to take a lot of vaccines, a lot of shots.
I got it. And I was going to say, Santita, I'm going to be honest, I'm not prepared to answer that today because there is numerous amounts of vaccines that are out there right now. So new players that are coming out, et cetera. So I'm not even going to touch on that topic. More so just advising, for example, my area is infection prevention and control, not necessarily in the vaccine space. It is there to boost the immune system. They have tailored it to be against certain variants at this point. As we know, variants do change. And so I continue to tell people that the recommendations are still to practice prevention as they always have. Understand that the vaccines are put in place to decrease the severity of symptoms. That is something that people should discuss with their provider to determine what their risk looks like.
What can we do to, if not avoid the flu, build up our bodies against it? I mean, because these are the things that we deal with all the time, and heaven knows the flu it feels awful. But no one really talks about how to prevent these little things, these little bugs that we pick up that feel off that can fall awful, that can take us down for 2 or 3 days. And now, if not longer.
So it's not looking down on people, and I'm giving a disclaimer before I say this, but if the people are just nasty. And so, like, I see people put their mouth after being on the subway station, touching on poles and stuff, okay? And so just simply up, like, a lot of the habits that we have are just not conducive to safety. And when we think about that, we say to ourselves, oh, well, how did I get sick? But if someone was to actually think about every single task in their day-to-day, they would actually realize, oh, my gosh, I was touching surfaces all day, or I was eating my food while touching the steering wheel in my car and didn't pay attention to the fact that I hadn't cleaned it, but I had just got done pumping gas earlier that day, probably taking groceries in and doing a whole bunch of other stuff. So that is one of the biggest problems that we have, is that we just don't pay attention to what it is that we're doing and realize that literally our hands is to make or break. We are the only species on the planet that uses our hands to do absolutely everything. And unfortunately, we downplay the value that they have in terms of being able to keep us safe. I'm on the call.
Oh, Dr. Knighton?
Yeah, I would have finished the statement, but Robert was trying to tell the dogs to come on.
Oh, okay. Well, but you keep going back to washing our hands. It seems like the little everyday things that we can do to keep ourselves safe. And now you go back to, people are nasty, and certainly we're not as vigilant as we were last year. I don't think that was a slam. I mean, there are things that have not been built into our everyday lives. Dr. Knighton, we're talking with Dr. Shanina Knighton, an infection preventionist, about how to prevent infection. I know you do not want the flu. I know you do not want COVID. I know you don't want all kinds of things, but there are a lot of things that we are doing in our everyday lives because of our habits that increase the odds that you will pick up all these little bugs that feel awful.
Right. Exactly. But I think the biggest thing is, too, we tend to, when we think that we are out of a situation of a threat, we get real relaxed. When I keep telling people that we should start incorporating some of these habits just into our daily lives, it shouldn't be a question about whether or not they are in our daily lives. And unfortunately, that is the issue that we're having, is that everything is made to be optional. Oh, well, the pandemic's over, so I don't have to clean my hands as often. And it's like COVID is not the only bug that's out there. We're walking into a season where we're about to have flu, RSV, enterovirus, a whole cocktail of just germs that's going to be around. But because we're relaxing our I would say, are letting our guard down, that's going to be the problem, unfortunately.
What do you think will be the impact of President Biden saying that the pandemic is behind us? Of course, the White House has tried to walk that back, but it wasn't lost on me that he was walking through the auto show, which they'd not been able to hold it for the past couple of years because of the pandemic. And this is, it felt to me like it was a business decision. You don't have to comment on that one way or the other, but and that's what was disturbing to me.
I got a problem with the timing, okay? My thing is this. People don't want to, extend it out. However, I don't think going into the fall season when we know people about to be dwelling indoors is the time to make such a harsh decision. For me personally, I feel like that's something that shouldn't be discussed until we back in the spring and we didn't actually made it through, an actual season without all of these preventative measures to say, then what is our report card? How do we do? Not necessarily walking into the winter months and walking it back. Now, don't get me wrong. This is also a time that's going to be a make or break to tell us, essentially where we're at in the current climate of the pandemic, because what's going to happen is without these preventative measures that are going to be in place, we'll find out real quick if some of this stuff going to end up coming back just as quick as it left.
What would you like for us to know? We have 1 minute as we go into this weekend, because now the temperatures are cooling. We're going to be in the low 60s today in Chicago, in the upper 50s in Minneapolis, St. Paul. People are coming in and people are not masked. And we've relaxed. And I'm not saying that you have to wear a mask. I'm saying that people have really relaxed. Dr. Knighton, what do you want us to know? What should we be doing to protect ourselves?
There's some of us that have not been sick. There's some of us that have not been as sick because we've protected ourselves. My recommendation is whatever you were doing last year when there was a media frenzy about COVID being bad, even without the media telling you that, continue that same energy in regards to wanting to be preventative, because that message may not necessarily be there, and that's how people end up sick. So don't rely on someone to tell you what you should be doing for your own health. Again, as I always say, be the CEO of your health.
Be the CEO of your health. Everybody, please take care of yourselves, and you take care of yourself and give your family all of our love, and just give that great nephew a big hug and squeeze from all of us at the Santita Jackson Show family. We love that little boy. We love that little boy. We love that little boy, and we're praying for his healing, and we thank God for it already. And blessings to you.
Thank you.
Everybody, hey, Dr. Nina. Hey, Dr. Nina. That is her handle in social media. HEYDRNINA. You don't want to miss what she's got to say. I mean, she puts it in such wonderful terms. It's so easy to read. Ooh, it's wonderful. You don't feel like you're at a college lecture. I mean, you feel like you're just, sitting down and reading, almost like it's like written almost, it's with captions, and it's just kind of fun, but it makes you think. Doesn't make you paranoid. It makes you vigilant. All right, everybody, let's talk about Mahsa Amini, the 22-year-old who was killed in police custody in Iran. There are protests all over the world. It's almost like a George Floyd moment, but we're not even discussing, as we are concerned for the rights of women in Afghanistan. What about this 22-year-old girl who was killed in police custody because she wasn't sufficiently covered? Killed, many suspect, by the morality police. And then President Trump. Should he run? Will he run? Can he win? Back in just a minute on the Santita Jackson Show. Thank you, Dr. Knighton.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry?
My household loud this morning.
Girl, please. It's my father used to do radio, and he had 5 kids, okay? And he would tell them, my wife and I have 5 kids, so 4 kids and a baby.
So it's funny, right? And I ain't gonna even say nothing. I'm gonna let her live her best life. So like you just said, it's 55 degrees in Minneapolis, St. Paul. So it's 57 in Cleveland right now, with the high that's supposed to be 59.
Ooh.
I look down at his daughter's feet. She got on winter boots. Talking about it's cold outside. I let her go to school. I ain't gonna even worry about it, because anytime I try to make a point about it,
Chaparral's on the line.
and literally, I kid you not, when it comes snow outside, he don't have on tennis shoes.
Well, see, there you go. Can you say Contraria? We got to give her a new name. She's gonna do what she wants to do. What's wrong with you?
That's her. That's her all day.
I wonder who she sounds like. I don't know.
Not me.
Okay, I got you. Okay, I'll just keep my mouth shut then. An odds buster. That's what she sounds like to me, but I'll leave it alone. I'm going with Mama. Oh, bless your heart. It's wonderful hearing your voice.
Well, thank you. She's quite something, okay?
Of course, she's got to be. These things are inherited. And our parents always say, on the day that you begin to feel. Well, my mother didn't say it with tears. She said, one day you're going to get you too. You're like, oh, whoa. And that is what happens. My brothers have boys who are jumping over hill and dale. Oh my gosh. They are active ones. And Yusuf's got 5 kids, 1 daughter and 4 boys. Woo! Ooh-wee.
Yusuf.
And he is with them all the time. But he loves being, all my brothers really loved being dads. They really did. But it's a lot.
That's good.
Yeah. They loved it. And they take their kids everywhere like our dad took them everywhere. Dad took my brothers. You see many a photo of them with him with them.
Well, that's tell me that's how my dad is. How my husband is with my kids. I told them, I was like, they with you so much, they probably think you a single parent out here with the circles you be in. We laugh.
You know what?
Anytime he takes them,
1 minute.
trying to stay home, because it's very rare that I can have a peaceful, quiet house.
Oh wow! A friend of mine just let me know that Saturday night, 3 of her family members got COVID at a family gathering. At a family gathering. Praying for you. Let me know if you're all right. It's one of my dear friends. It's out here. And I hope that the symptoms are not that severe. She wanted to let me know. It is out here, you guys, and it is. That's why when the president said that, I said, you all keep making these business decisions, because they decided,
15 seconds.
Thank you, that they needed to reopen the economy. Attorneys Jones and Connolly, hey, I'm going to go to Chaparral. I'm going to get right into it. Sending you all much love. We're going to make a pivot from Masa Amini at about 6:45, 6:50 to Trump. But I do want to spotlight that, and we're going to talk about that to Radio Cent next week.
Change the world, change the world. We can change the world. We can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love. It's not too late. Gotta save the children. We can't wait. Let's change the world. I am green.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I hope that you'll meet me on iHeartRadio on Sunday when we do Keep Hope Alive. We're going to be talking about a lot of things. One of the things we're going to be talking about, one of the topics will be the seating of the Cherokee Nation in the U.S. House of Representatives. More than 100 years ago, that was a promise. Actually, it was a document that was signed that was to have admitted them to the U.S. House of Representatives to be congresspersons. That never happened. But they're on the verge of that happening now. But we're the ones who are going to have to push to ensure that the Cherokee Nation is seated in Congress. We're going to be talking with Chief Hoskin, who is the chief of the Cherokee Nation. And I'm going to be talking with him and Kim Teehee, who many people feel should be the congressperson seated. They'll be on the Santita Jackson Show next week, but they will be on the Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson radio show on Sunday, which is on from 7 to 9 Central Standard Time. Go to iHeartRadio, that app, so that you can listen to it. Let's talk about Masa Amini, and let's talk about President Trump. Will he, should he, could he run if he's indicted, convicted? What will happen? I've got a lot to talk about, but first we have got yummo. Now, am I going to get oxtail soup or oxtails? I mean, what am I going to get this weekend from Celebrations by Us? Because I told my father about it, so I have to share some with him. So, gotta let him know.
Like I was saying yesterday, it's because of the weather. I think that the soup is what you need.
Okay.
We're gonna switch it up a bit.
Okay.
But we're gonna make you some Santita, and it's gonna be fabulous. I promise.
Oof, I cannot wait.
Celebrations by Us. We are your one-stop party connection. So not only do we do food, we do custom decor as well as also sweet tables, floor wraps. We do floral arrangements as well as also we do custom banners. Whatever it is that you need for your party needs, don't hesitate to give us a call. 708-526-4546. 708-526-4546. We can handle all of your food. This weekend we're doing a wedding, and we'll be making, of course, the oxtails as well as also some baked chicken, macaroni, as well as also mozzarella, greens, and green beans. So don't hesitate to give us a call at 708-526-4546. We look forward to serving you, Santita.
Well, I can't wait because, now I got to share it with my parents. But my mother cannot have salt, just so that you know.
Okay.
So I want to get some chicken for her.
I'll customize it.
Like, that's right.
Okay.
No, she can't have salt. And I know she's going to be mad that I said that. Oh, that's all right. Just got to be for health. Sending you much love, everybody. Celebrations by Us, 708-456. No. 526-4546. 708-526-4546. We got a lot to talk about today. President Trump, his support remains unmoved by investigations, according to the latest polls. Will he, should he, could he run under indictment after being convicted? Could he win? I think so. So there's that. But let's start off with this story that is a huge story all around the world. And I want to thank Robert Patillo for really bringing this to my attention. He said, let's not sleep on this. This is something we need to watch. There's a 22-year-old girl, Masa Amini, was detained by Iran's so-called morality police. Now, mind you, I don't pick on people and their cultures because people have, I'm culturally sensitive. However, when I see something unjust, I think we need to talk about it. This is a 22-year-old girl who was wearing her hijab, but apparently the morality police did not feel that she was sufficiently covered, and she died in police custody. And women are cutting off their hair, they're burning their headscarves. This has become a huge, dare I say, George Floyd-like moment throughout the world. And we need to talk about that today before we talk about President Trump. And of course, Attorney Aaron Connolly, brilliant political organizer and strategist, and Attorney Darrell Jones, who is the chair of the Transformative Justice Coalition, one of the nation's leading voting rights advocates. You can catch him and Barbara Arnwine on WOL every Tuesday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Let me start with you, Attorney Aaron Connolly. Masa Amini, what is going on? And we see these women cutting off their hair, burning their headscarves. I mean, they're having these defiant acts of resistance all throughout the Muslim world.
Yes. Good morning, Santita, and thank you so much for this conversation. This has been a topic that has been front of my mind, as many of my dearest friends are from Iran, either born there and live now in the United States, or their families are Persian and were from Iran. And I can feel their heartbreak and anguish as they watch what's going on in their country over the death of Masa Amini. And what we've seen in Iran in the last few years is ripe for this type of protest. The secret police, the morality police that operate with complete freedom in this country have terrorized mostly women more than the male population. This is a gruesome example of what they are capable of, and the response shows how fed up the people are about living under this type of regime where you can be detained for essentially no reason at the will of a police officer and lose your life in the process. So she was brought to a re-education center that she did not emerge from. And what her family is saying is they were not allowed to view her body to see the extent of her injuries. What the hospital staff has said to them is she was beaten severely. She had wounds on her head down to her feet. That is not conducive with the story that the police are saying, is that she was medically fragile and died in custody from a heart attack because she was so sick. Her family said she was a normal, healthy 22-year-old woman living her life, supporting her parents, and was killed by these morality police for not wearing a proper headscarf. And what we see is the bravery and courage of the Iranian people taking to the streets without headscarves, without hijab, protesting, cutting their hair off, and what we see from this regime. And I think it's so important, and you always do an amazing job on this show. The people of Iran are not the government of Iran. And these people have been suffering as we have provided sanctions on the government, right? So these people are a proud and good people. I have seen the Persian and Iranian culture firsthand. They are a loving, rich culture that are welcoming and kind. And what we see now is their rage has been bottled for so long under this type of oppression that they can no longer stand for it. When their daughters, when their wives, when their sisters can no longer walk the streets and feel free in any way, they cannot express themselves in really any capacity in their personal with their body, right? And it is up to a random police officer whether or not you are following the rules. And as we saw here, for many years, there's been issues with police beating people. This is just a new example, an extreme example of what they are capable of. And what we see now in Iran is terrifying for folks that live here and throughout the world and are connecting with family members. Internet has been cut off completely.
Which they want to do here.
6 people have been killed, and including a teenager have been killed in response to these protests. And I think given the geopolitical situation in Iran right now, it makes it more difficult for the government to quell large-scale protests like this, because this isn't an example of the frustration, but it is the death of Mahsa Amini represents the brutal attacks that many folks have experienced with their own families or friends throughout this regime. And I am praying for Iran. I am praying for the families of those people who have lost folks in their courage to find justice for her and for themselves and their futures. It's really a terrifying situation.
Well, the challenge becomes, Attorney Connolly and Attorney Jones, America's interference, because most people around the world feel that our movies, our music now is degrading. And there's a real pushback against that. And I think we have to acknowledge that too. When you have popular music that refers to women as bees and as whores, and all of this cursing and on and on and on. And then, gratuitous sex in our movies, that becomes a problem because then you have these morality arbiters who react against that too. And I think we have to put all this stuff in context. There is no reason for this 22-year-old girl, though, to have gone into police custody, and all evidence shows that she was beaten to death. No 22-year-old has a heart attack, Attorney Daryl Jones. That's crazy. That's crazy. But, and you know, and these things happen here in the United States all the time. Whew. Attorney Jones, your response to this.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Santita. And, you know, I think that Aaron laid it out so very clearly what's happening in Iran. You know, but what I think is really interesting, and one of the things that you're pointing out, is that here in the United States, there's a lot of, you know, statements and music, et cetera, pop culture, if you will, that talk down and brutally and not kind things of women. You know, interestingly, given the development and the build-up of Iran, what you would find there, however, is that wouldn't be permitted at all. And that, you know, is one of those things that you couldn't fight back against that type of treatment. And that, I believe, is what we're seeing now that's coming out of the people of Iran following the Mahsa Amini death. Is that, you know, they're saying the rules and the structure and everything that you're putting on women there that is so oppressive to them, we are going to stand in unison and fight back. And it's really interesting because, you know, what we see happening, you know, in Iran now, and Aaron was speaking of the morality police that's there. And you know, that morality police is like 2 or 3 years old with regards to the re-education centers at this point in time. So one of the things that becomes interesting with regards to the re-education centers is you know, you begin to wonder what actually is going on in those re-education centers. Are they really just trying to express to them the importance of wearing the hijab? Are they really trying to censure them to their religious beliefs? Or is there something else that's going on? And I think that what Mahsa Amini demonstrates is that there's something else that's going on. Now, the 22-year-old girl that is taken there for, you know, under the pretense of dealing with the hijab and how it's being worn, and then ends up dead. You know, there's something that's going on in those re-education centers. And you know, the response to that by the people of Iran is just, you know, to me, to some degree, heartwarming to see the overflowing of men and women beginning to stand up and say, we've got to progress past these oppressive strictures that we've put on the women of our society. And that's a large part of what I think is happening there. How does it parallel to the U.S. society? It probably is somewhat of a parallel in that, you know, we do have people that come together to stand up for women's rights and push forward with this. How it doesn't parallel, however, is this government response from Iran with regards to them. You know, I think they killed at least 8 people at this point in time, shooting into the protesters that are standing up for the women. And, you know, there are several more people that have been injured by these.
Well,
So
you know,
it's very
but you know,
interesting.
Daryl, we've had a history of that. Hopefully we've learned a little bit from it, but we still spy, you know, on people who dissent, right? I mean, this is when you have government overreach, and it iterates in many different ways all around the world, right? I mean, it's just, this is when you see oppression wherever it is, and it pops up. It's just, we do it in the most elegant of ways in the United States, I must say. You know, we do. But what we have to look at, Daryl, I think, is just women's rights. And I went to a women's conference in Brussels just before the pandemic. It was December of 2019. And it was interesting to note that women from all around the world, and it was really, there were 2 of us who were from the United States of America who were African American, but it was women from the Middle East and women from Africa, throughout the continent of Africa and of the countries of the Middle East. And as we talked, we all have the same issues. Everybody makes less money, we get less opportunities, but you see how much ground we've broken in the United States, and how and why we need to keep pushing. I mean, just 40 years ago, women needed a man to co-sign, Aaron, for you to buy a house. I mean, in many instances, many women around the world today cannot get a bank account unless their husband or a man co-signs. That is real today, all over the world. And so this pushback is what we're seeing. It's what we're seeing. 1 minute before we switch over to President Trump, you know, everybody wants to talk about that, but we're going to continue to talk about this issue. Aaron, your closing thoughts, or should I say the thoughts that you will conclude with today, because we're going to talk about this more next week.
Yeah, well, and thank you again. And what I will say to the listeners, what I hear from the Iranian American community is please continue to share this story. Make sure you're talking about it with your friends. Make sure it doesn't just stay in the international news, that this is a worldwide women's issue, and our friends and neighbors are feeling this and suffering and worried about their friends and family. What they are asking us to do is to share these stories on social media, share the courage of the Iranian people to show how they are different from the brutal regime that governs them. So if you have a moment today, quickly share a news story, retweet some of what Santita has shared this morning. Make sure people are talking about this, and that her death was not in vain, and that their struggle, their courage does not go unseen. That is what they are asking. And I thank you so much for bringing this topic up. I know there is a lot of misinformation about the Iranian people, and they are people, and they are fighting for their freedom. And we see, as you said, it's not that different than our struggle in many ways. We just have a different public relations spin on it.
Well, I mean, look, we just had Black Women's Equity Pay Day this week.
Exactly.
And we're going to have the Latinas, and we're going to have the Indigenous by the end of the year. Black women have to work 263 more days to make what a white man makes in 365 days. Our Indigenous sisters have to work almost a year. Latinos have to work 11 months. I mean, come on. We're all in this together, bottom line. And I think we also have to engage in deeper analysis about the cultural pushback that we're getting, because people look at a lot of what we're exporting and a lot of what we're doing in the United States as being morally degrading, and that is true. And they don't want any part of it. And then there's just a lot going on in the world. And, it's the zeitgeist. It's the spirit of the times. People have had it up to there. And if you're watching me on YouTube right now, it's just past the top of my head. People have had it. They've had it. They've had it. And may God bless the family of Masa Amini, but we're going to be talking about this more in greater depth next week. Let's talk about President Trump, why his support has remained unmoved by these investigations. I need you all to talk to me about that. We're going to be continuing this discussion, furthering it with Attorney C.K. Hoffler, with Dwight McKee. You all have been asking about him this week, and Attorney Mark Fancher, in addition to the panel we have here. And we want you, there's some seats at the table for you there. Call us at 773-763-9278. Will President Trump run? Should he run? Could he run under indictment? What about a conviction? And could he win? The American public's view of former President Trump is really stable. It's pretty remarkable. This is according to a New York Times Siena College poll. 44% of voters view him favorably. 53% view him unfavorably. 44% very unfavorably, 23% very favorably. But that's enough to get him over the hump, everybody. That's enough to get him over the hump. As his legal troubles are mounting, his support is also, it's consolidating. What does that mean? Starting with you, Aaron, what does that mean? Well,
I'd love to see.
First of all, you sighed. You sighed. You're like, oh, I got to do more. Yes.
Yeah. No, it's just exasperating to hear after former President Trump is on television saying that he can declassify things in his mind. And there's another civil case in New York that we saw this week. And people, I think it's an interesting psychological phenomenon that we have here, right? And I think we've seen this in history repeat itself many times. Those who have been ardently supporting him throughout this process, where he's questioning the results of the election, where there are fascists violently marching on our nation's capital, and they have still backed him, right? They are doubling down now, that 23%, because that 23% will always support him. And it's dangerous and scary and troubling in so many ways, but the 23% that you mentioned, Santita, those are not the folks that we should be focusing on for the midterms or the next election. Those people are going to, I think, never be swayable, and no matter what the evidence says, no matter how many classified documents are stolen, no matter how much our national security is at risk because of who is viewing that classified information, nor is it compelling that he stole money from a children's charity that was proven many years ago, right? So he continues to mount these terrible things that his organization do. I don't think that's going to make the difference. I think there's a chance as more evidence comes out, and we have another hearing on the 28th regarding January 6th. I think those are the best opportunities that we have to change some hearts and minds as more of that evidence is presented in a almost court-like manner. And I'd love for Attorney Daryl Jones and C.K. Hoffler to talk about what that process will look like and whether that will have a bigger effect on those hearts and minds. I think when we see the evidence laid out, we can get some of that 44% to realize that it's a futile thing to support a criminal who is putting our national security at risk. But ultimately, these folks have made that choice. He's their guy, and he represents something bigger. He represents white supremacy. He represents anti-government. He has become a diabolical messiah in their minds, and we saw that rally last week that was terrifying, with fingers in the air, reminiscent of something else that I don't even like to compare anything in the United States to the Weimar Republic, but I had terrible chills watching that. And he represents something outside of himself. And that is what these people are supporting. I don't believe it's necessarily him. And that's why it's such a dangerous thing to allow this movement to build. Because it will go on after him.
But the thing is, he's captured something, and he campaigned on it, and he's marketed it. That's what he does. I think if we do not look at what's going on underneath Attorney Aaron Connolly, Attorney Daryl Jones, we're going to miss it. We're missing the fact that people crashed the communication system of the U.S. Congress when Goldman Sachs asked for $770 billion, or they were going to crash the economy. We're missing that. People, that's not been lost on people. Remember, we got a black president out of that. Because people were just so upset. They were like, you know what? He's got to be better than anything you all have put up before. But we've got to look at, student loan debt. People, now white people feel aggrieved. Now white people feel like, I don't have a shot in America. Now, this place was supposed to be for me. My granddaddy came here, my grandmama came here, my mother came here, because they said I don't have to live under a monarch like I do in Europe. No, but you have to live under an oligarch and an oligarchy in the United States. I think we have to look at all of these pieces. This is not to make excuses for anyone, but if we do not understand the reasons driving all of this anger, and if we miss all of this, we're going to miss all of this. And that's the danger, I think. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show. Call us at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. Let's talk about President Trump. Will he, could he, should he run if he's indicted, convicted? Could he win? Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. And Daryl, I'm going to come to you when we get on the other side. But wow, the thing is, the longer this goes, the more I think he has a shot. Well, he's always had a shot, but he's really got a shot. And I don't know if I'm shocked by it. I tell you, when Dwight McKee and Robert Patillo said that in November of 2020, you might recall that. Aaron and Daryl.
I remember.
You remember?
I remember.
And didn't it sound crazy? You were like, oh, yeah. I just don't want to even think about that. They said, you better think about it because he's not going to leave office.
I know.
They said that.
Yep.
And it sounded
They
so
were
crazy.
right.
It sounded nuts. You were like, he's not going to leave office. Come on now. Come on. The election. Okay. Once the election is over, they said it's not going to be over. And even you have to carry him out that White House kicking and screaming. And he's going to set up a parallel government. And the second White House will be at Mar-a-Lago. And that has been true. I'm still trying to get over it. I called Dwight. I'm like, what did you see? Because I missed this piece. He said, all you have to do is follow history. And Americans need to stop saying and thinking, oh, that could never happen here. Of course it could. It does. Oh, call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Hey, Mark. Hey, James. Let me see. Karen says that don't forget, Democrats continue to minimize his impact on America and the fact that he's responsible for over 500,000 deaths. I hope we don't begin to talk about how he is no worse than past presidents. We must stop or he will win again. Biden is no better than Trump. Blah, blah, blah. Come on. Some people say that. And Facebook user
Attorney
said,
Hoffler's on the line.
Thank you. Yep, you saw it. Some people saw this now. Trump and his sycophants are fanatics. They won't give up. Well, I'm not going to, I think we need to talk to people, not just about them. He has a whole range of people who support him. And many people who claim to not have supported him are lying to you. He got the majority of the white vote in the United States of America. So many of your white friends who say, oh, I never would have voted for him, they voted for him, they're going to vote for him again. Bill Barr said he'd vote for him one more time if given a Democratic alternative. I'm sorry, who else do I have?
Mr. McKee.
Okay, great. So people are lying. They are not telling the truth. When they say he got 74, 75 million votes, yeah, he did. And most of them were white, but a rising number of them were black men and women, Latino men and women. Why? We don't need to demonize people. We need to talk to them. Find out what is it about him that appeals to you. And he's going to grab some people on the left. If he keeps talking about the FBI planting evidence in his home, because they don't act like that's not what they do. Come on, y'all. It's a lot. Karen, you say you returned. I am not shocked from day one. I've heard of how wonderful Bernie would have been and how awful Biden is. They are not the same. I hear you. I wish you'd call in. Joan, the corporate narrative about Trump, what does that mean? Were you watching what went down the last 6 years? Do you support insurrection or authoritarianism? No, I don't support authoritarianism. And I don't support it when he does it or when J. Edgar Hoover does it. Has anyone forgotten about J. Edgar Hoover here? This man tried to destroy Martin Luther King's marriage, sent his wife tapes of him engaged in intimate acts. Are you serious? Brought him into the office and said, if you leave the movement, I'll leave you alone, which he never would have done. Are you serious? He's a fascist. But everyone's forgotten all about him and all the people who worked for him who did the horrible misdeeds that they did, not just against Dr. King, but against the whole movement. And they're doing it against peace activists and people who are dissidents today. We've forgotten all about that. Or we ignore that because we're so angry with this guy. You all have to help me out with this one because I just see inconsistency here and we should not be inconsistent. Hey, Ty. And when you say where you live, people are proud to say they support. Yeah. And my mother was driving through the South just a couple of months ago and she said, I want you to know, she called me from, I think, Dwight, she was in South Carolina. She said, I see Trump signs everywhere and they're as big as poster boards. Aaron and CK. But CK lives in Atlanta, so what am I talking about? Daryl.
Yeah,
all you have to do is drive outside of Chicago, because we're farmland up here, honey. Acting like this joker does not have support is crazy. Thank you, Carol. What you said, Carol. Carol is crazy. Crazy. I love you, girl. I don't know what to do about Carol, not me, Saskia. Lionel, you say we should be prepared for the unthinkable. Woo. Yes. Okay, Dwight, you have anything to say before we go on? I got about 30 seconds. Well, I know you'll have enough to say because Aaron just said Dwight did predict this.
Back in 1 minute.
Wait, the unthinkable is Herschel Walker. I have to throw that in there. I'm sorry. I can't help myself.
No, that's unthinking.
Lord have mercy. Jesus.
Unthinking and unthinkable.
That's unthinkable. I mean, I'm trying to be. I gotta get myself together.
No, you can't get yourself together behind that.
No, I get myself together. I have these outbursts where I'm like, is this really happening?
Yes.
Are we really talking about a close race where it might, oh my God.
Oh boy.
We have to be in prayer here in Georgia. We have to be in prayer.
Oh my gosh.
Our prayer.
5 seconds.
The Lord say, our Father who art in heaven. Because let me tell you, this could actually happen.
Oh, stand by.
Change the world, change the world. We can change the world. We can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love. It's not too late. Gotta save the children. We can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. I'm Santita Jackson. It's a joy to be with you today. I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278, WCPT and AM 950 radio. Let's talk about President Trump. Could he run? Will he run? Should he run? If he's convicted? If he is indicted or convicted? What's going to happen? Could he win? His supporters remains unmoved, according to this newest New York Times poll, and more polls are showing that. What is going on, everybody? What is the source of his appeal? Call me at 773-763-9278. We have Dwight McKee, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, Attorney Daryl Jones, Attorney Aaron Connolly, and Attorney Mark Fancher on to talk about it with you. You have a seat at the table. Call us at 773-763-9278. In Chicago, we'll have a high of 64 degrees, mostly cloudy. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 58 degrees, showers. Volatile stock market at a loss this week. We'll have to see as they respond to the Fed hiking interest rates. Major League Baseball, the White Sox, fell to the Guardians yesterday, 4-2. They're 7 games back. Second place. I hope they make it into the playoffs. It's not looking likely, though. The Cubs 3, the Pirates 2, the Royals 4, the Twins 1. In the NFL, they're playing games every night of the week, it seems. The Browns 29, extending their record to 2-1 for the season, 3 games in, and the Steelers 17, 1-2-2, everybody. Hurricane Fiona is headed for Canada. Canadians are bracing for what could be the strongest storm to ever hit their country's coast ever. Hurricane Fiona, which has already battered the Caribbean, Puerto Rico. They are now forecast to brush past Bermuda on their way to the eastern shores or the east coast of Canada. Praying for them right now. Occupied parts of Ukraine are voting in referendums today on joining Russia. The referendums, which are illegal under international law, have been widely condemned by the West as illegitimate. Such a move could provide Moscow with a pretext to escalate its faltering invasion, according to this CNN report, which has seen Ukraine regain thousands of square miles of territory this month. Immigration. A Democratic lawmaker in Florida is suing Governor DeSantis, Republican Governor DeSantis, to stop him from transporting more migrants from the southern border using taxpayer dollars. State Senator Jason Pizzo, a Miami Democrat, says DeSantis illegally misspent taxpayer dollars by flying about 50 migrants from San Antonio to Martha's Vineyard. Everybody, we want financial freedom. How about you? Do you have high credit card debt? Are you using your debit card? You actually need to use a credit card. A debit card is not helping you build that credit at all. In fact, it's hurting you. What about a plan to buy a house? Do you think that, oh, I don't have enough credit, I can't even think of buying a house? What about refinancing your house? What about reverse mortgages? What about? Do you know enough about these financial products that could help you? Do you have a financial plan that could move you to home ownership, that could help you to build wealth, even in this economy? Well, you need to call Team Hochberg so you can make that happen. Call them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or visit 56david.com. All you need to do is call them and let them know all that you're dealing with. And when you do, tell them the whole truth. It's a free consultation. And then when you reconnect with them, they'll have a plan. They can meet with your credit card company. They can help you with your bank. They can help you to get the loan. Think of Tom and Sonia. They have 2 kids, 17 credit cards, had 17 credit cards and $100,000 worth of debt on those cards. Whew, but it could happen to anyone. Many people are using credit cards to buy groceries, okay? Well, guess what they did? They called Team Hochberg and Team Hochberg was able to secure an FHA loan for them. Then they met with their credit card companies and brought their credit card debt down and reduced their monthly payments by over $2,800. You need an advocate with these credit card companies and with the banks. So do what Tom and Sonia did. Call Team Hochberg at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or visit them at 56david.com so that you can get on the road to financial freedom. President Trump, what is the magic in this man? What is he doing? What is he doing that is keeping his support buoyed? This is something that attorney Robert Patillo, regular on this show, and social scientist, brilliant social scientist Dwight McKee said would happen in November of 2020, or October of 2020. We thought, Aaron, that they were nuts. That they said he will never leave the White House. You're going to have to drag him out kicking and screaming. He's going to set up a parallel government, and the second White House will be Mar-a-Lago. And he carried papers with him, too. You can't make this stuff up. You can't. You cannot. And Arlene said, we cannot forget history, but we must focus on the 2022 midterms. And that you did say before that you were confused by this platform. Let me explain this just very quickly to you. I've grown up around politics all of my life. I grew up in a city, Chicago, where you were forced to vote a straight Democratic ticket. The Democratic Party in Chicago was an oppressive force for Black people. And when my father ran for president, when my brother ran for Congress, they both had to run against the party. And progressives, sadly, have to run against the party. So I tend not to focus my politics on a party. I focus on the people. And I also focus on the facts. See, I'm not going to give certain government entities a pass because they are going after someone I don't like necessarily, whose politics I might not embrace. Because I know if you've been unjust to me, you can be unjust to someone else, and I'm against injustice, period. Okay? So I want to look at all of this stuff. So I always have to step back. I don't jump to conclusions. I try to arrive there, and I try to listen to all the facts. And that's why I don't want you to be confused about this platform. I will always be honest with you and forthright. And I try to look at the facts. And I let the facts lead me to my conclusions, not my feelings. I have my feelings. But if the facts point in a certain direction, most of my college life was spent in chemistry. So, I could do whatever I wanted. But, if I touched the beaker, I had to start the experiment again. 1 liter is 1 liter. Not 1.1. It is what it is, so that's kind of sort of where I am with these things. So we have got attorney C.K. Hoffler, chair of Rainbow Push, former president of the National Bar Association, legal analyst on Court TV, host of her own show on WAOK. Girl, your intro is getting longer and longer. I love it, love it, love it. On WAOK every Tuesday at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And of course, we have another radio host, Attorney Darrell Jones, chair of the Transformative Justice Coalition. He and the president and founder of the Transformative Justice Coalition, Attorney Barbara Arnwine, host their show on the iconic WOL station out of DC. Everybody go to WOL every Tuesday at 12 noon. And then we've got attorney Erin Connolly, brilliant activist and political organizer and brilliant political analyst. We just love having her. And Mark Fancher. Always glad to have you, Mark Fancher, whenever we can get you. Brilliant civil libertarian and lawyer. And he is an author, everybody. You've got to get his book. We're going to have to push your book, Mark, because we know it is a great one, The Negroes of Friends Village. It is fantastic. Please get it. The Negroes of Friends Village. Go on and give them support and buy it today. Let me start with you, Dwight McKee. Are you surprised by former President Trump's support remaining unmoved by these investigations? That's according to the New York Times polling. And then there is, they're beginning to find, there's an interesting report in Politico that his support is beginning to consolidate, not break apart. Dwight McKee.
No, I'm not surprised because Trump has a reputation of a man who can get things done and get big things done. And what the country is looking for is a man that can get things done. Much of the country feels like that the Washington is dysfunctional. The world order is going in a different direction. They feel threatened by inflation and job loss and disease. And so they're looking for a man who they believe knows how to deal with process and, and create. And so in their minds, Trump is the man that can make things happen. Biden is a man who talks about things happening. But Trump, who they see as a billionaire, make things happen. I want to say very quickly, while I got a minute, is that I don't think these charges are going to stick anyway, because what Trump does understand is the system. And the system, as Robert explained yesterday, is based on perceived value. It is you buy low and you sell high, and that's called capitalism. And so when you inflate your assets or deflate them for tax advantages, that is the American way. Is the most powerful power that you have in this country is the power of appraisal. Michael Jordan's house was listed at $30 million. It's been on the market 10 years. It's down to $14 million. His jersey sold last week for $10 million. His jersey is worth more than his house because it's all about perceived value and what you think people are willing to pay. And so when he inflates the value of his house or the inflate the value of his golf course, what he is saying is this is what I think people are willing to pay in an open market. It's all subjective, and the banks also have to bring their own appraisals and buy into the notion. And so they're going to have a very hard time making this stick because this is the American way.
Do you think he can? Do you think he's going to run? Do you think he can win?
Oh, he's running now. Whether he can win or not depends, again, on the geopolitics of it all. If we can get enough voters to vote in the right states, then, we can pull it out. But I think that if we can't, I think he's going to be the president again. That's what I believe. I think that we got a better shot this time around because his enthusiasm is solid, but it's not as broad as it was before. And that gives Biden a chance. But don't write Trump off for it because he can become the president again.
Wow. C.K. Hoffler, please get up off the floor and pick up the phone.
Okay. I find myself sometimes sounding like Lurch. You remember Lurch from the Addams Family? Which is so I that's what I find myself doing. So, Dwight McKee we can always count on to express to us his vision, and he's always spot on. And so, but I oftentimes, Dwight, who I respect so much as one of the foremost visionaries, political strategists, activists, historians, in this country. And so when he says these things, I know that they are true. But what it does is it incites in me a sense of we've got to do better. But is President Trump going to run? Absolutely. Can he win? He can. Does Biden have a shot at defeating him? Absolutely. Will Herschel Walker win? I hope not. But the fact that, and I know you didn't ask about Herschel Walker. I can't just not say anything about Herschel Walker. But Herschel Walker is the personification of a Donald Trump in a different format. What Herschel Walker represents to some is an extension of Donald Trump. So we have to be really, really careful. And when here in Georgia, when we've got a strong candidate who has demonstrated his competence, Senator Raphael Warnock, and someone who should never, ever, never, ever in the history of the world be on the ticket, who is running neck and neck with a very strong candidate, that should tell you that Donald Trump can win. Because what happens in Georgia reverberates in Florida, moves to Alabama, goes to Tennessee, and on, moves on to the Midwest, to the West Coast, and to the Northeast. So we have to really keep our eye on the prize and recognize where we are. Recognition of where we are and the realities of today can help us to defeat what we don't want to see. Now, I will say this about my Letitia James. Oh, my goodness. I believe that the charges against Trump will stick. I believe that she and Fani Willis are going to take it to the natural conclusion. Now, will that excite his base? Absolutely. You know, I'm from the Marion Barry days in Washington, D.C.
Hey.
Marion Barry ran the campaign from jail and was released in one. It is possible. It makes some people more sympathetic because the spin that they will say is, I'm a victim. I am a victim. Watch it now. These words are going to come out of his mouth more and more in the same way that Dr. King.
Well, hold up. Let's say this about Marion Barry. Marion Barry completely changed the landscape for Black people in Washington. He created a Black entrepreneurial class. He brought Black people out of poverty into working class and middle class status. He served so many people that, unlike any other mayor in history, they had to grant him the equivalent of a people's state funeral. We had to go to the convention center so that tens of thousands of people could be there.
And I'm not drawing parallels.
Oh yeah, no.
I'm not drawing parallels at all with the record. Marion Barry to me is sacrosanct. Ain't nobody talk about Marion Barry with me. But I will say this: expect to hear the Trumpers, those really, really strong. In fact, I had this on my show to compare what's happening to him to what happened to Dr. King. So, injustice anywhere.
They call in and say that on your show.
I'm not in favor. I had a discussion with the caller. Yes, on my show, who said,
what do they say?
Injustice everywhere. That they say that what she said was, well, I'm sure that you are not a proponent of injustice and the fact that he has been targeted, he's a victim, and she went through a whole bunch of things which I don't find that there was evidence for. And she said, just like Dr. King, there are a lot of people who talk about Dr. King and J. Edgar Hoover. Well, Donald Trump is being targeted in the same way. To which I responded, negative. And then I went through an analysis of why that's not true. So be careful of the analogies, because for some people, hearing that and understanding the history of the FBI, especially during the days of J. Edgar Hoover, that might resonate with some people. But no matter whether that resonates or not, it is going to consolidate his base as it's doing. But I think the charges will stick. And I don't think that he will win, but I think for him not to win when he runs, he's going to run, he's running now, there's going to have to be, every single day, the Democrats have to keep their eye on the prize and recognize what is in front of them. And that is a formidable force. And a lot of the events of January 6th were the tip of the iceberg compared to what could happen. But I do think that, just as a lawyer, I will say I do think those charges will stick. I don't know that the Justice Department, for instance, is going to go the full way with the evidence that they may or may not have. But I can tell you in the state of New York, Letitia James is about the business. And I can tell you here in Georgia, Fani Willis in Fulton County is about the business. And they are not, Trump is calling them everything critical of them, just calling them everything but Satan. Maybe even use the word satanic against them. But these women they have crossed every T and dotted every I, and they're moving forward just as they would with any other case. And that takes some type of something given this political environment. And I applaud them as a lawyer for looking at the evidence, connecting the dots, being able to tell a story that has compelling evidence, and going out there and doing what they are being paid to do.
Well, you know what? I think we can prevail. But Attorney Darrell Jones, I've got about 2.5 minutes here, but we have to vote strategically. I can't help but think of someone who's been a guest on this show so many times, who made his transition almost a week ago, Frank Watkins, the iconic, legendary Frank Watkins, the communications director emeritus of Operation Breadbasket, Push, Rainbow Push. My father's longest serving staff member. And he said, Biden didn't win by 5 million votes. He won by like 60,000+ votes. Because these people are voting strategically, right? Darrell, and it's something that we need to really look at, because Wyoming, matters as much as California, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, Santita. I say all the time, and I said it previously, with the panel here, that when you kick that hornet's nest of the Trump supporters, you got to be ready for the reaction, because they're going to come back and try to protect their own. And I think that's what you're seeing here. So one of the things that the CK was pointing out, and that really dovetails perfectly into the voting rights analysis, is that what you see happening in Georgia with the prosecution down there by the prosecutor Willis, what you see happening in New York by the prosecutor there, the Attorney General there, Letitia James, these are black ladies that were voted into office by the voters that are pushing this forward. And it's going to be the voters that determine a lot of this. Can you imagine if there were people that were not supporters of the fair justice system that were existing right now in New York and in Georgia? You wouldn't have these cases going forward. You wouldn't. So it really comes down to being certain that we elect people that are going to hold people, what do we always say, accountable for their actions. And this is part of what we see happening in New York and Georgia. This is part of what we see happening, Santita, with the January 6th Commission. They're holding people accountable, but it's the vote that has put the people in the position to be able to try to rein him in and to hold this former president accountable for his actions. And that's what this big push, I think it is right now, is to continue to have people in office that will hold folks accountable for their actions. And that's where we are right now. I think, Santita, that's the reason that when you look at the CBS poll and NBC poll, whichever it was, that said that the biggest issue on Americans' minds, American voters' minds, is democracy, is the preservation of our democracy. And I think that, this really embodies all of this. So, I agree with CK. I think he's going to be indicted. Whether he's indicted on the federal level, I don't know. He's going to get indicted in Georgia. He's going to get indicted in New York. And the African-American prosecutors that are in place of those two, in my mind, they're pushing forward, and they're pushing the federal prosecutor to actually have to address these issues. Letitia James laid it all out. IRS, where are you? Here's the information you need. Department of Justice, here you go. This is what we found. These are the federal crimes that we found. Bank fraud. These are the crimes that we found. You've got to move forward on it. So again, I think that's really an example of the power of the vote, putting in office people that are holding everyone accountable. And as Letitia James so eloquently put it, no one's going to be above the law so long as she's serving there as Attorney General. That's the power of the vote, of what the people put in place, Santita.
It's the power of the vote, everybody. Call us at 773-763-9278. Will President Trump run? Yes, he is running already. Can he win, even if he's indicted and convicted? Call us at 773-763-9278. Hope you'll join me on Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson on Sunday as we talk about this issue and the seating of the Cherokee Nation in the U.S. House of Representatives. It should have happened 100 years ago, but it could happen right now. But you're the one who has the power to make it so. Back with more of Keep Hope Live. Santita Jackson Show in just a few minutes. All right, everybody. Keep talking because we're on Facebook Live. Does anyone have a response? Right?
Well,
CK?
I just think this is an interesting, and I'm not going to talk about Herschel Walker anymore, but this is an interesting commentary.
Go on.
Well, I mean, if you give me the platform, I just want people to know how ridiculous it would be. How ridiculous.
No, CK. I thought Donald Trump was ridiculous. I remember talking to my brother Jonathan. I was like, I can't even talk about him. This is ridiculous. I said that to him. And Jonathan said to me in 2015, oh, hold up, my dear sister. Do not sleep on him. He is a master marketer and he can win. Watch him. I thought my brother was nuts. I was like, are you serious? I mean, my voice sounded like that. I was like, are you serious right now? I mean, because I almost became angry when he said that to me. And he said, yeah, I'm very serious. Yeah. He said, watch him.
And it can happen. It can happen.
Oh, wow.
And when I'm watching it unfold, seeing that it could happen, it makes me feel some kind of way. But let me pivot to Letitia James just one moment and Fonnie Willis. Oh, my goodness. You know, I have to tell you, I characterize them. They are Black women, and they are exceptional prosecutors. There's not, and that's what they are. They are prosecutors, and we need to applaud when we have exceptional prosecutors who are under attack every single day, every minute, every hour, and live in danger zones and threats and their lives are being threatened every single day. When they cross every T, dot every I, are meticulous, methodical, put the evidence in front, and do what they're being paid to do. Because there are some prosecutors that would never do that. And that's why it is so important to vote. Because both of them were voted into office. Both of them, the political process played itself out, and the most dynamic and qualified candidate, prevailed. And so I say that because that is something that we should consider progress. Because 15 years ago, and I can say this because I've been in practice for almost 37 years, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 37 years ago, there never would have been an African-American woman in either of those positions.
Mm-hmm.
There really wouldn't have, not in the same way. So there is progress on that level. But, power concedes nothing. And because they are in that position, all eyes are on them. The Justice Department is looking some kind of way. Because we all know that as a lawyer, I believe that there's a plethora of evidence that I've looked at that, and Letitia James brought before she.
Back in 1 minute.
Many of us felt that there was at that point. So I don't know what the Justice Department is going to do, but it's an interesting commentary that state prosecutors, an attorney general, and that a Fulton County, a prosecutor, that they are taking the lead on what will be the most sensationalized and dynamic and important political case that this country has seen in a long time. That's very interesting because typically what happens is they would defer conventional wisdom, the legal dynamics to this. You would defer to the feds first because they would have, you would believe, a stronger stick, a bigger stick to be able to prosecute someone. So it's an interesting legal commentary to analyze the fact that a county prosecutor and state attorney general will take the lead on these charges.
Hold on one second. I want you to make that point on the other side.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love. It's not too late. Gotta save the children. We can't wait. Let's change the world. I am breathing.
Hey, everybody, call us at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Former President Trump, will he be indicted? Will he be convicted? Even then, he is running. He said there are no prohibitions against him running. Can he win? And what about voting strategically? I'm speaking to Democrats now, because President Biden did not win by millions of votes. He won by about 60,000 votes plus that were strategically placed in different states. Yes, Dwight?
Yeah, I just want to deal for a minute with the charges because I don't want us to romanticize about what we're looking at. The charges is that he inflated the value of his property. You have to understand capitalism to understand this. There is no money. It's all perception. The budget is a deficit budget. They pay for the budget by fiat. That is, they create value where there is no value. Capitalism is based on perception, not money. And so when you talk about what Trump is being charged with, he's been being charged with inflating the value of his assets. All of finance, all of capitalism is based on the perception of deflated and inflated assets. You buy low and then you sell high. The stock don't change, the perception of the value changes. It's called capitalism. And so when he talks about, I thought my property was worth this, what he's saying is, I thought on a day I could say it's one day I would be able to sell that for this. It's all subjective. And so I'm saying that once the banks get involved, because all the banks have to put in an appraisal and co-sign your evaluation. And so you got all of the money that is given, all these banks that are giving him money based on the fact that they believed that he was able to deliver that value. It's what they lent their money on. And so the whole system is built around perception, perceived value, appraised value. What makes a Michelangelo worth $40 million and another painting make $40,000? It's all perception. Somebody appraises and decides that. It's not that the painting is so much greater. It's that somebody has given it that kind of value. And so I don't want people to be confused about what he's being charged with and why they're going to have such a hard time making it stick.
CK, what's your response?
Well, if I could add, my response is this. It wasn't just that, and Dwight is right. That's what it is conceptually. It's that he fraudulently, intentionally, criminal, did these things, and people relied on it. And there's detrimental reliance. There's some very, very meaty, meaning significant legal arguments, legal claims against him that are very serious. Dwight has given us the concept, but the laws that he's violated, ostensibly, allegedly, because everybody's innocent until proven guilty, are very serious. They're very serious crimes. They're very serious. These allegations are very serious. And many a person has fallen based on these very allegations because banking institutions and other institutions have relied to their detriment on fraud. So I kind of disagree with them. I think they're going to stick because I think the gravity of and the significance of these legal charges are not to be understated. And others have fallen in the state of New York with similar types of charges. So that's why. Now, in Georgia, it's a whole different thing. He just flat out tried to buy the election, tried to just persuade people and had too much bravado to recognize that he was being recorded. Because in Georgia, you don't need the consent of another party to record. You can record anybody. And so in Georgia, that's a whole nother issue. Evidence turned over by the Secretary of State. So in Georgia, I think the evidence is just as strong from a different vantage point because you have his own words and his team that were clearly trying to defraud the voters, defraud the American people, and to mislead and buy the election by any means necessary. That's why you have to be careful who you vote for. And in this instance, quite interestingly, they did the right thing and turned over the evidence to Bonnie Willis, and she was a newly elected Fulton County district attorney. So I think that these charges are very serious, and I believe they will stick. I believe a jury of his peers, well, definitely Fulton County, he's going to get a jury of his peers. He may not like his peers, but he's going to get a jury of his peers in Fulton County. Now, I can't speak about New York, even though I'm from the state of New York. And Bonnie Willis and Letitia James has been someone who distinguished herself way before this case as an extraordinary lawyer, and that's why she's the Attorney General. But I don't think that these are light claims and light charges. On the contrary, they are very, very well worked up charges with a lot of evidence. The whole political thing, now that's different. That's different. But from the legal aspect and what a jury would hear, when it happens and when it gets to that point, I think he has a problem. It might take 5 months to pick a jury, but there's going to be a jury seated, I believe, in both of these cases that will sit and look at the evidence and make a determination. And I believe one or the other. I put my money on Fulton County right here in my backyard. And I don't say that because of the dynamics. I just say because of what we see here. I think that he's going down for this. Now, will he still be able to run for president? I don't know. If he runs, will he win? I don't know. But I think the Democrats have to take this seriously and recognize that there's a mobilization of the base, and they're going to come out fighting stronger more than ever.
And they're voting
And so they gotta
strategically,
give them
CK.
that power.
I mean, and I think that's why he went to Georgia looking for 11,000 votes. He wasn't looking for 1 million votes. He said, all I need is one more vote. I need this. And I think we also have to understand that not only must we must vote strategically, everybody, strategically. Aaron? Oh, I'm sorry.
And Herschel Walker, I just want to say, it is not a coincidence that Herschel Walker is running for Senate. Herschel Walker, his protege, oh my goodness, when I think about it, is running here neck and neck in Georgia. That is by design. It's strategic. So the next time around when this comes up, because, there's going to be a next time, they're going to do the same thing. They will have, they hope, a powerful senator who might be whatever he is, but they'll have somebody who they can completely manipulate and who will make sure and facilitate the fraud if that's what it takes for them to win. That's how I look at it.
Aaron, your thoughts?
Well, I think this has been a brilliant summary about what's at stake and where we are. What I want to add is we are at risk of dismantling democracy not only in our country but throughout the world by how we react and respond and what example we set. The United States, for better or worse, true or false, with our faults, has been the beacon of democracy shining throughout the world. If we can't hold our own with this much evidence, with this much obvious criminal activity accountable and provide legal and systematic atonement, not only for President Trump, not only for his allies, but for other people who behave like this, we are losing our power and influence in the rest of the world. We are already at a spot from a national security standpoint where our influence has waned, and we're at great risk of losing what credibility we have with regard to our example of democracy for the rest of the world. How do we defend that in other nations if we can't defend it in our homeland, if we allow it to invade our capital and become violent and kill our Capitol Police without accountability?
But Aaron, just engage me for a minute. Part of what we can do is not overthrow other people's governments and interfere in their elections. See, because we have to look at the underbelly of what we do and what we're known for all over the world.
Absolutely. And
okay,
because
democracy, I hear you, but I'm just saying that's the perception too. People look at us and they're like, are you serious? See, we can look at Modi in India and how he's reacting to Ukraine right now, but he's a right-winger just like this present iteration of the Republican Party is too. You have a whole different movement, a Gandhian movement, if you will, over there, who absolutely feel very differently than Modi. And see, and until we really understand the internal dynamics of these different countries, Aaron, we're missing the boat. I mean, because that's why I said at the beginning of this Ukraine invasion, I said the global South is not going to line up with this because they see us doing things that are anti-democratic. We're not living up to the ideals that we state. We're not.
No,
and that becomes that's a problem for us, and it becomes a problem for our people who go and serve overseas. It makes them very vulnerable, everybody. See, that's one of the things that bothers me. It makes them hated by the local people. And the local people are very fair. But when you continue to mistreat them, it becomes a problem for our people who go and work in every country in the world, Aaron. It gives me chills.
Absolutely. And as part of a military family, that's always something that's at the top of my mind.
I'm part of a military family too. And my mother's family, they were military. And I mean, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. You send your loved ones go to these places and they are endangered because of our crazy policies and because of the things that we do. Oh, girl. Oh, it bothers me.
We have to have standards. And if we don't have the legal accountability for our highest office, what does that say? What does that say if he's allowed to get away with this? What will it allow in the future? What message does it send to those?
No, let her finish first.
It makes us weak.
Okay.
Okay, no, I wanted Aaron to finish first because, I mean, but Aaron, okay, you all engaged. Dwight?
Aaron, I want to help you with this just a little bit. The world's dictators launder their money through Trump Towers. Trump's mentor was Roy Cohn, who was the lawyer for the mafia. That democratic stuff is only in the books that you read. That is not how the real world works. There is no democracy. The Queen just got buried last week. She owned 1/6 of the world's landmass. We're dealing with reality. We're not dealing with the perception and the mythology of how the world works. The world is about who has the guns and who has the land, earth, wind, land, and water. That's what this is about. Putin is bombing Ukraine because he wants the water and the land. That is the real world we live in. And so Trump will not be held accountable because he's operating in the real world of power, money, and dictatorship and tyranny. That's why he works so well. That's why the people support him. So a lot of people support him. That's why they support him, because they understand that he understands how that world works. And that's the world that they understand that America wants to be at the top of.
But, I think I come back to a point that Aaron was making and that CK was also making in that regards. And I appreciate the whole power shift thing. However, I believe in that whole little David and Goliath thing, because I think that when we start looking at what's happening on the local level, Fulton County prosecutor, Fannie Willis is going to be bringing these charges against former President Trump. The state attorney general, Letitia James, is going to be bringing these charges against Trump. There's not going to be at that point an opportunity to squelch, to quiet, to suppress any of their actions. Because what these black women are doing is they're following forward on their oath of office to hold people accountable. And so, regardless of that much larger picture that we're making picture of the powerful and the elite, these Davids, Fannie Willis and Letitia James, they're saying we're with the people. These crimes have been committed and we're pushing forward on the charges. And I don't see how, and I hear all the argument, I don't see how you get past this valuation of a 10,000 square foot condo that you're trying to say is 33,000 square feet. That's it. Ball game. No valuation point. That's just straight out numbers. So when we start looking at and going into all the information that Letitia James was pointing out and pulling up in New York, the indictment's coming from New York. The indictment's coming from Georgia. The indictment got to be coming now from the Department of Justice, because they're going to be following behind these two black women prosecutors. So, and I suspect that the convictions are coming. That's not going to bar him from running for office. He's still going to be out there pushing, but in terms of him being held accountable, in terms of him having to sit and be judged by a jury of his peers, that's coming. That's going to happen. I don't see that as being avoidable.
CK?
How do you sell a baseball card for $5 million? $5 million, a baseball card that you paid a quarter to get for $5 million. It's all about perception. It's not real money. So the charges can't stick, because all he's going to say is, if the appraisals wasn't real, the bank shouldn't have approved it. It wasn't me. It was the banks. I gave them my best numbers and my best speculation. It was up to them to not give me the money.
But
every bank has an appraisal.
May I jump in here?
I'm talking about what the law, what.
I think it's a little bit more.
But if I could jump in here, okay. Now let me say this. One of the things that I think we need to understand is getting beyond former President Trump. It's an opportunity for us to look at the whole system. We have in the news black families who have tried to sell their high-end homes, who could not get them appraised properly because they were black. They had to have their white friends step in and behave as if they were the owners, lie, so that the banks would give them the proper appraisal so they could sell their homes at fair market value. In many respects, this is a shell game. Now, I'm not saying that he won't be indicted, convicted, none of that. But I think beyond him, we need to look at a system that is so subjective that continues to undervalue our worth. I'm getting beyond him. I'm like, this is an opportunity to look at a system that is rotten to the core. You can't tell me they didn't know that he was living in 1,000 square feet and he said it's 33,000 square feet. All he had to do was tack on a couple of floors to a building he owned. It's subjective. And I hope that beyond him, beyond this conversation, we will look at a system where people just pass money amongst themselves and they lock the rest of us out. And that for me is highly problematic. CK?
Yes. Well, Santita, you're absolutely right. But I think it's a little bit more complicated. I think it's a little bit more complicated and complex. And there are many of the financial barons in the state of New York and throughout this country that have fallen for doing what Donald Trump did. So I don't think it's just, and again, I do think the case will go forward, and I do think it will get to a jury at some point. And I have to treat this case and looking at it and doing legal commentary on it, which I'm doing, as I would treat any other financial crime case. And look at the evidence, and I will make commentary based on the analysis of the evidence, witnesses being produced, the quality of the indictment, all of those kinds of things. But I do think that there's certainly sufficient evidence to go forward with it, and strong evidence. And what I perceive as a strong case, not a weak case, not a fraudulent case, not a frivolous case, but a strong case. And if as Dwight is saying, it's nothing more than perception, all that kind of stuff, he's going to have good defenses because he's going to hire the best counsel, and their job is going to be to put together the strongest defense that he has. But Bernie Madoff had good defenses too. He had great defenses. He's still in jail. A lot of people have great defenses to their financial crimes. They're still in jail, and it's hard to get people indicted. But remember, New York, the state of New York, you got to look at what they're doing from a legal standpoint. They convicted R. Kelly on RICO charges. That was pretty revolutionary. RICO charges historically were used for members of the mafia. RICO charges that he was running a sexual enterprise, a criminal enterprise, because of what he did to these women. And he was convicted on RICO.
But you know what bothers me about that, CK? They never did that to Hugh Hefner, who I personally loved. He was very supportive of the movement. But all this mischief that happened at what was essentially a brothel called the Playboy Mansion. It's, I think it's the fact that we selectively indict and convict people. That's what's problematic for me. And it always makes me suspicious. Because
I'm
like
not
I said,
making
I'm just saying even beyond former President Trump, I hope that we will walk away from this moment questioning the banks. Because anytime black families own $1 million house, that is marked down 30-50% because they're black, but you let a white person, just a friend, a well-meaning friend who will step in for you, and then the value jumps over what you thought it was going to be. Oh wow, I think we have a problem in the system, and we got beyond Trump. We've got to deal with that.
I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that. My statement is towards where we are in the state of New York. I want people to understand with the state of New York, some cases that have happened in the state of New York to give context. Because when you look at litigation, you look at the likelihood of success, you look at whether or not these charges, and we're all speculating will stick. You want to look at the climate. What's the legal climate in that state? And the legal climate in that state, you look at the cases that are being prosecuted on a level and the types of cases. And I raised the R. Kelly case because that is something that happened. Now, I make no comment about how, R. Kelly versus Hugh Hefner versus Bill Cosby. I'm not making that. That's a whole other show. My comment was only geared towards giving people a perception of what's happening in the state of New York.
Okay.
And how in the state of New York, which is the capital of financial crimes, how the creativity of the prosecutors could lead very well in this case to a conviction, I believe. And in this case, because of what's at stake, this attorney general, I can't speak for other attorney generals, because I've had cases against the state of New York. I had a case against the state. We litigated for 8 years. And Chris Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo, not Chris, I was thinking, Andrew Cuomo was the attorney general at the time, former Governor Cuomo. So I have litigated against the state. I know what they do. I know how they put together cases. And so this case has been put together in a very meticulous fashion. I'm not saying it because it's Letitia James. I'm just giving you my thoughts as a lawyer of what I've observed. And they know when the stakes are high and when they do these financial crimes, this is not a play type of a case because they know how difficult it is. But she did hand to the Justice Department on a platter. And she kind of said, okay, now what are you going to do? We here in the state of New York, this is what we're doing. What are you going to do? Because this is the evidence. So I think it's going to stick. Is it going to be hard fought? Yes. Is there any guarantee of success? No, there never is in litigation. But there's enough evidence here. I mean, in my way of looking at it,
I've got 30 seconds.
Can see this evidence. So that's how I do. That's what I feel about it.
No. I hear you. Stay with me for a couple. No, wait a minute, Dwight. I got to get out. But I want you all to stay right here on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, and we're going to continue this conversation for just a few more minutes because I want to get closing thoughts from everybody. I want you to meet me and Reverend Jesse Jackson on Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson 7 to 9 on Sunday Central Standard Time, 7 to 9 on Central Standard Time. Get your iHeart app. That's where you can find us. And you can find us on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel and Reverend Jesse Jackson's page and the Santita Jackson and Friends page. Woo! That's a whole lot. Meet me on Twitter at Santita J, and Santita Jackson IG on Instagram. Stay right here. We're going to get some closing thoughts from everybody. But, I hope that this will be an opportunity, as I said, as I've been saying throughout this conversation, beyond President Trump, beyond all of this stuff, let us look at the system and make the corrections. Deal with these banks. They have an inordinate amount of power, and they have the power to tell you how much you're worth or not worth. That for me is a problem. Beyond President Trump, there's enough evidence to convict him, sure. But the fact is, we're looking at a Ponzi scheme that jams all of us. Anytime black people have to get white friends to step in so that they can get their homes assessed at the proper value, we got to deal with that today. Love you, everybody. Can't wait to be with you next week on the Santita Jackson Show. See you on Sunday. Okay, keep talking, y'all. Dwight, were you saying something with
Goldman
CK?
Sachs.
Okay.
Yeah, here's what I was saying, because again, I want y'all to understand the system. Goldman Sachs funded worthless assets, took them to the tertiary markets, sold them for billions and billions of dollars. The people whose assets they leveraged it against houses, Goldman Sachs got bonuses from the American government, and the head of Goldman Sachs became the secretary of the treasurer. That is the system. That's how this, and nobody went to jail. And he hasn't done anything different than what they did. That is how this system works. They no doc loans is what they bundled. They didn't even ask you if you had a real job. They imposed value on that, an insurance wrap to that, and then sold it for billions of dollars of markups and made billions of dollars. And everybody on Wall Street did it about the same time. And then they stuck the taxpayers with the bill. That is the American way. So you're going to be hard-pressed to get him convicted, because all he's going to do is bring the banks in and ask them, did you all send out an appraisal? If they say yes, then they confirm his value. If they say no, then he's going to say it's your fault, not mine. This is you all's problem. Y'all's going to confirm the value.
Does anyone else have anything to say before we go? Oh. CK?
I think Dwight is making an excellent point. I think he's making an excellent point. But that doesn't absolve Donald Trump of liability or of guilt. It just maybe brings in others. But there are always third parties like the bank that are brought into these types of cases. Always. Because the defendants always point the finger at the banks. Well, you know, it must have been okay because the banks, but if the banks are going to say, yeah, but you defrauded us too, because you lied on your statements. That's what the banks are going to say.
I wish they take that hit when they do that to us. They do that. They do that to the people every day. I'm sorry. What?
Right.
I'm sorry, Daryl.
That's okay. Yeah, the other part that I think that has to be taken into consideration is that you got to remember that former President Trump's accountant has already been found guilty, and he's presumably is going to be one of the people that's going to be testifying with regards to the valuation process that they were utilizing and whether or not they knew that they were intentionally doing this. I suspect that he's going to testify honestly, because if he doesn't, that'll be a violation of the conditions that he's being held on, and any type of probation that he may be on. So, you know, I think that, you know, with regards to the argument that Dwight is making, one of the big problems that we're going to face, the Trump side is going to face, is that they're going to have someone inside the Trump camp who's going to be taking a position that, yeah, we knew that this wasn't the value. We were intentionally inflating this. So we knew that what we were representing to the government, to the banks under oath, was not true, was not accurate. And that's going to be one of the bigger obstacles that they're going to have to overcome. But, you know, let me just close with this piece, though, Santita. You know, I don't think there could be any greater example of the importance of voting than what we're discussing right now. And all three levels of it. You know, we have the January 6th Commission because of the vote and the people that want to hold them accountable on the federal level. We have New York because of the New York Attorney General that's there that was voted into office to hold them accountable in New York on the state level. And then we came all the way down to the local level with Fani Willis that now is pushing to hold them accountable on that level. All of that comes about because of those people that have been voted into office by the voters in the country. And if we did not have Fani Willis, if we did not have Letitia James in place, I don't know how strongly we would be looking at the ability to hold this former president who's, in my mind, guilty of multiple crimes, accountable. So that's the power of and the importance of us getting out to elect people that are willing to do this.
Well, you
And
know
that's
what?
how we hold our government accountable.
There's no question, but stay right there because I don't think that I know I haven't been, and I don't believe Dwight's been arguing for former President Trump not to be convicted. I think he's going to the heart of some. I think he's going a little deeper. I mean, because beyond President Trump, former President Trump, who arouses all kinds of passions, people love him, people loathe him. It is what it is. I want to look at a system that jams all of us. I hope that we will take this as an opportunity to start questioning banks. I don't see us doing that. I see us letting them go, letting them slide, because they allowed him to slide. But he has borrowed billions of dollars from them, billions with an S, plural, that he's never had to pay back. What is up with that? You can't even get a loan for your house, and you work every day. How fair is that? These people just pass money amongst themselves. That's all that they do all day long. Call each other rich, and then that makes them rich, and they call us poor, and then they help to make us poor. I'm more burned up about that than I'm about him. He's going to defend himself, and they'll let him off, or he'll be convicted. It is what it is. I'm talking about what happens to us every single day of our lives. And I want us to be at least as concerned about that and start asking questions about these banks and how they conduct business. We need to ask how they conduct business. Hello? Am I by myself?
Crickets on that one, Santita. Because, you just dropped the mic. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. They've got to call for the investigations into the banks to find out what's going on and why is there the unequal treatment with regards to the investigations on people's assets and what they present to the banks. Because clearly, and Dwight's point is well on point on this. Clearly, they were not doing any independent investigation to the information that Trump was presenting to them. They were just accepting it and rolling with it and giving them the money.
I mean, this is what they do all the time. You cannot get a loan. I mean, this is awful. They're the ones who decide what your house is worth. Oh, I'm sorry, Dwight. Go on.
It's a little deeper than that. But Trump declared bankruptcy 7 times. Bankruptcy, and they still were giving him $2 and $3 billion at a shot. You think they don't know what was going on? You think they wasn't part of the scheme? You think they have not protected themselves in the scheme? That was the process. Is he would go in, inflate an asset. They would loan against that inflation, knowing that part of the inflation was that he was not going to pay back the money. He would keep the difference, and then if need be, turn over to them the asset. And so and then all of them would take their fees and run to the next deal. And so the bank would be left with a gaming institution that was bankrupt, that didn't work because they stole the money off the top of that. The bank will take all of the write-offs. They then take the property and call it a day of bringing another sucker on the Ponzi side. What I'm trying to explain to you all is that is the process. They wasn't confused. They wasn't deceived. They're all in on it because that's how it works. You try to buy a new car and you've been bankrupt one time, and they won't give you $40,000 if you got a $100,000 job to buy a $50,000 car if you've been bankrupt. He has been bankrupt 7 times. And they still gave him billions and billions and billions of dollars.
Wait a minute. And the New York Times knew it. They never reported it, and they helped march him into the presidency. One of the top reporters who follows him, her mother is on his PR team, or she's part of a company that helps to run his public relations. This is a nest of mess. It's a mess. And I hope that we will get beyond the personality, because I don't want us to join the cult of personality of Trump either, and go beyond him and look at the foulness in this system that keeps us all poor and working at McDonald's at 75. No harm in working at McDonald's. I love the coffee, but guess what? We got our old people working because the system is broken. This is awful. So, I mean, I'm beyond him. I'm looking at a system that is just foul, and it is unfair. Unfair. Do you all have anything else to say before we go? Hello? Daryl?
Hello again.
CK? Anybody? Aaron?
Thank you for this discussion, and I want people to realize that Herschel Walker is merely an extension of this.
What do you want us to know about Herschel, girl? Wait.
He's an extension of all of this.
I hope this man loses.
We had George Bush before we had Herschel Walker,
Wow.
and folks thought he was retarded when he announced. Herschel ain't the first one that's unthinking.
He's not the first, won't be the last
And
one.
we made him the president.
Right. I just happen to be here in Georgia living this and finding every day, I wake up and say, you got to be kidding, right? This is a joke.
No.
I mean, and it saddens me. I got to be honest. As an African American, it saddens me.
But wait a minute, CK, smart, free, Black people, Black men in particular, have always been anathema to the system. They have always frightened the system. Yet they're the ones who have the wherewithal to run, like Raphael Warnock, like Reverend Jackson. These are Black preachers who are answerable to Black people. So of course he could mount a campaign. They're threatening to the system. Someone who's bought, owned, and paid for and used to babysit President Trump's children. Someone who's too afraid to stand up and too unwilling to stand up for his own people in his own little town. No, they want him. That's who they want. And all these other Black folks that they glorify, that's who they want. They're bought, owned, and paid for by the system. They're owned by the system. And you need to start asking questions about that. And the white folks, too. Whenever the corporatocracy loves someone too much, you need to run in the opposite direction. I tell you that. No one's ever had anything bad to say about Herschel Walker. No, and he graduated at the top of his class in high school, and it was a competitive high school. And he's like, I'm not that smart. Never. Oh, please. Now, unless he shows me evidence of CTE, they have covered up his personal life, everything, because they want him. That's what they do.
Well, personal life is out there. I mean, there are commercials every day about, women are testifying about him doing this and doing that. But it's just like President Trump. We knew he had filed for bankruptcy 7, 8, 10, 15 times that we could identify. It could have been through some corporate entities as well when he was elected as president. We knew how many women he had sexually assaulted, used, all kind of, defamed women left, right, on tape. We knew that when we elected him. That didn't make a difference. It's not making a big difference with the base of supporters in Georgia. It really isn't.
Wait. Let me speak to Arlene real quick. Just because the system is corrupted doesn't mean Trump is guilty of stated bank laws. That's not what I'm saying, Arlene. You've missed my point the whole show. That's why I wish you would call in so we can engage in a full way. Because maybe I'm missing the nuances of what you're saying. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not trying to absolve him. I'm trying to defend you. Don't slap me upside the head because I'm trying to defend you. I'm trying to say there is a system that this man is evidencing that unfairly disadvantages you. I'm saying question the whole system. And you mad with me? Because I'm not trying to light a torch and lead a lynch mob on Donald Trump. I don't do that. I'm looking at the facts here. Black people try to sell their homes. They need to get their white friends to step in so they can get assessed at a higher value or at the right value. Really? And you want to talk about the wealth gap? We just had Black women's pay equity pay day this week. Black women have to work 263 more days. We almost have to work a year to make what a white man makes. In 365 days, we have to tack on 263 days. 365 plus 263. That's 320. We have to work 628 days to make what a white man makes in 365 days. I'm saying look at a system, please. A system that hurts you. That's all I'm talking about. Whatever, this is a man who they knew, the media knew everything about him. They wouldn't even force him to disclose his financials because they wanted him. They would never let Reverend get away with that. They would never let my brothers get away with it. They will not let you get away with that. This is the game, and you need to understand what the game is. They're not going to let Bernie get away with that. They wouldn't let Dennis Kucinich get away with that. They won't let a progressive, someone who stands for the people, get away with that. But a corporatist, yeah. A populist, they will destroy you. They've been trying to send Bernie Sanders' wife to prison because she's tried to educate people in a community college. Come on, y'all. Let's wake up. If you want to hear someone who's going to go off on former President Trump every day, I'm not your girl. Because I look beyond him. This system is so locked in. If you think that the media did not know exactly who he was and what his financials were, and then the New York Times, after he gets out, oh my goodness, look at his money. You all already knew what his money was. You knew it. You hid it. And I'm always suspicious of the people you protect and shield, you so-called expose. And the only things you expose on poor folks is their personal lives, as if you don't have one yourself. He'll be convicted or he won't be convicted. They can get people on the jury who they can jam, who they can force to vote in a particular direction. That's how the system works. It's unfortunate, and it is true. So why don't we just decide that we are going to have a system that is equal and fair? Look at these banks and how they do business. Dwight just said you can make $100,000. You try to buy a $50,000 car. If you don't have to be bankrupt, you don't have to have been bankrupt. You could have just had some financial problems like student loans, and you can't get a loan. Helping out your parents, your family, because you're the first person in your family to go to college to get a graduate degree. Oh my goodness. The bank is not going to help you. So don't get mad with me. Get mad with the system and change the system so that it will be fair to you. That's all that I'm saying. It's about the system. The system is unfair. It's unfair. And it hurts you. And I think that it is unfortunate that every time I or people try to defend you, we want to go past and get mad with Trump. You're mad with Trump because the media's made you mad with him. If they decided to make you like him, I promise you in about 5 minutes you would, because that's what they do. Because he was a hero 6-7 years ago. Everybody knew how he did business. That has not been a secret. But he's been protected. And he has also been trained by the best, by Roy Cohn, who guided McCarthy through his hearings. And the mafia and everybody else. We keep trying to give you the information. Don't personalize the results. Don't do that. This is not personal. Be scientific in your analysis. When you're scientific in your analysis, those personal parts don't matter. It's the facts. Just the facts. Is anybody else still there now that I've had a rant today? And y'all love it when I rant. And I think, y'all, that's nuts, Laura. I mean, it's the system. The system's a mess. CK, did you leave already? Daryl, Aaron? Dwight, is anybody still there?
You said it all, Santita, for me.
Aaron, are you still there? Daryl, did anybody go? Well, that's it. And so I just hope that we will I love y'all too. That having been said, I want us to, You know, Robert, you can dislike Trump, but don't even spend your energy doing that because that soils your spirit. You don't need to dislike anybody. You can dislike or disrespect what they do, but respect the person. Don't do that. It hurts you to dislike somebody. It diminishes you. It hurts you. It hurts us to personalize this, whatever former President Trump is going through instead. And we're going past a system that we can see is foul. Just going past it. Oh, no, Trump. Okay. And you can't get a loan to send your child to school, to send your baby to school. That doesn't bother you? You got to get a white friend so you can get your house properly appraised? That doesn't bother you? He's been borrowing billions. You can't get $1,000 from a bank?
I guess what I get confused by is how people, and I'm not a Trump fan, don't get confused.
Well, nobody's a Trump fan here.
How they curse Trump, but then exhaust the Queen.
Oh my gosh.
And that family has stole much more money than the Trump family has.
And killed more people. I mean, this is what they do. How do you even get in the position to own 1/6 of the world's landmass?
And be worth $2 trillion.
But you're gonna pull for the Queen now, Dwight. Catch this, because now she's got a black daughter, a granddaughter-in-law. Are you for real? So you just want to brown up imperialism? Is that what you're telling me? I have no problem with Meghan Markle. She is fine with me, but I ain't up for no Queen being here. I didn't sign up for that. I am a citizen of a republic. I'm with that. So I'm not excited about some curtsy and all that. I'm not with it.
But how do you exalt her and cry at her funeral, and it becomes a human catastrophe because she's now dead?
Wait a minute. And they live 30 years longer than the average Brit, Dwight. The royal family lived 30 years longer than the average Brit. 30 years. You can't make this stuff up. Because that's the banks too. In the center of London is something called the City of London. That is the center of the world's most powerful banks. Don't get mad with me, because I'm not going to lead a lynch mob on Donald Trump. When all he did, he kept telling you, this is the way the system is structured, y'all, and it is true. I'm just doing what the system lets me do, and that is true.
And that is true.
The system won't let you do it. No. The system won't let you borrow to send your child to school. The system won't let you renegotiate your loan so that once you get out of school, you can breathe. The system won't let you do that. Don't get mad with me, get mad with the system. Start questioning the banks. Start demanding that Congress, the U.S. House of Representatives, and the U.S. Senate have some hearings that have some teeth on these crooked banks. That's what you need to do. Instead of getting mad with me. You can get mad with me all you want to. I'll take it. But that ain't going to help you. It's not going to help you.
How can you be the richest man in the world and not pay taxes? Warren Buffett said that my secretary paid more taxes than I do. I mean, that is, I'm trying to get them to understand that is the system. It's set up that way because the people that benefit from it is the ones that set it up for that. So even Warren Buffett said, this is so unfair, I feel guilty that I pay more taxes than my secretary. And I'm the second richest guy in the country.
Okay.
We have to stop being so emotional and start being more scientific. Because it's us being emotional is why we ain't in the game.
Because, Laura, you said you want Trump's money. Trump ain't got no money. The Queen's got money. Warren Buffett's got money. Bill Gates got money because Bill Gates is the biggest landowner in the United States. Ted Turner's got money. Landowning makes you money, gives you money. That's why becoming a renter as opposed to a homeowner, which makes you a landowner in the United States, is so dangerous. Understand the game. BlackRock is buying up all of our houses. So you're going to have to rent from them because they're not going to let you own anything. They're going to block you from that too. Get clear on the game. The game. How you can own 1/6 of the world's landmass and you mad with me. Y'all, come on. No. So that's all. We're just trying to give you some information. Who do I know in education? Who do I know in the United States who wanted an education didn't or couldn't get one? A lot. Talk about these kids who had 50 schools closed on them here in Chicago. They had ambitions, and they had to go from classes that might have had 30 people to classes that had 60 people in them. The system is not fair. And I got the best out of the system that there is to give. And I'm sitting up here arguing. I'm arguing for you because it's not fair. And just because you got doesn't mean somebody else didn't get. I mean, come on, y'all. Just start thinking. Just let's understand the system. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm saying I'm with you, Dwight. Take the emotion out of this thing. Effie Rolfe, they own 1/6 of the world's landmass, which means they also control oceans, parts of oceans. That's why the Royal Navy is so strong. Because they own islands. The Falkland Islands in Argentina, they own that. So she had the right to go in by ship. The Queen did, because around the island, she controls that water. I'm simply saying to you, we need to understand. We need to understand just how the system works, and then you kind of settle down, everybody. Got to settle down.
Because, and that's my last statement for the day, is the American way is you start with illegal money and then you convert you into legal money. You launder. The Forbes, they make their money off of the drug trade. I mean, they're the Forbes 500 now, but the family made its money off the drug trade. The Roosevelts made their money off of the drug trade. They then became legitimate and became presidents and senators and all of that. But the family money came from the drug trade. The Kennedys made their money out of the
liquor,
prohibition, out of alcohol.
Illegal liquor.
The American way is you first are illegal and then you launder and legitimize to become legal.
Wait a minute, you make your money, then you make it illegal to lock everybody else out.
That's
right?
Correct.
Okay.
That's right.
Now, mind you,
you make competition illegal. You make your vices legal, and everybody else's vices illegal.
Wait a minute. The Facebook user, bless your heart, said in Greenville, to my point, whole new neighborhoods, Greenville, South Carolina, my father's hometown, and my brother Jesse's hometown too. Whole new neighborhoods are being constructed with 2,500 plus square foot houses for rent. Emphasis yours. That's all I'm trying to tell you. That's what's going on here. We are being put out the game, y'all. While we are focusing, while the media are misdirecting you to focus on Donald Trump, no one in corporate media is asking about the unfairness of banks' practices. That ought to infuriate you, not me. You so excited about the conviction of one man, you're going to let a whole system escape scot-free. Don't do that. Don't do that. Dwight, do you have anything to say before we go?
No, you said it all.
No, you said it all. You got everybody all riled up, but they mad with me, but that's all right. I love them people. Love y'all. Love you. See you on Sunday on Keep Up Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. iHeart, get that app. And of course, if you want to hear the podcast, if you want to hear all the show, you need to go to the YouTube channel, the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, because, you know, we have even more fun during the commercial breaks and after the show than ever. So I love you all. Love you, love you, love you. Love you, Dwight. Love you, Aaron. Love you, Daryl. Love you, CK. Love you, Dr. Knighton. Love you, Pastor Tisha. Thank you, Paul. Sending you much love. Everybody, God bless you. See you Sunday. Bye-bye.